Hello everybody, it's Rod with the Photo Fair with another sort of video review. Today I want to talk about modern film cameras, if there was ever such a thing, right? Well, actually, there is. And they even had autofocus. In particular, I'm going to touch on two cameras today. One camera that I own, which is the EOS-1, and that's the original Canon Pro Grade autofocus camera. Came out in 1989. And then also Nikon's Nikon F4, which was their first pro caliber SLR with autofocus. And that one came out similar time frame. So both of those cameras are available real cheap. You'll find them at Photo Fair, you'll find them at other camera shows that might be in your area, you'll find them on eBay. We're talking about cameras that were top of the line serious pro cameras that were, you know, $1,000, $1,500 for the body only back when they were new, now selling for $100. And these are nice cameras, guys. So I own the EOS-1, so I'm going to focus more on that, but I'm going to make some references to the Nikon F4 because it's a great alternative for people who shoot Nikon DSLRs and would like to shoot some film. So starting with the EOS-1. So guys, this is the EOS-1. Canon, as you all know, in 1987, they completely got rid of the FD lens mount, kind of abandoned their base, but they were so far behind Nikon in the pro market, and they really wanted to come out with something that was going to give them an edge over Nikon, and they did. What they did was they went to the modern EOS mount, which is completely electronic between the lens and the body. No levers, mechanical, nothing. All electronic. So it was lightning fast. It blew everything away. I was there working in the camera industry when these cameras came out. That EOS 650 was the first one, then they had the 620, then they came out with this. This again was their first attempt at a camera aimed at the pro market. And let me tell you guys, it was amazing. It was so much faster than the Minolta Maxim system that had come out, and it was much faster than Nikon system, which maintained that Nikon F mount that dates all the way back to 1959. So Nikon kind of played it safe, tried to retain their base by having a lens mount that was compatible. Canon kind of said, sorry base, we're throwing you overboard, we're coming out with a new system, but it's going to be awesome. In the end, Canon won that battle. As the 90s marched on, they just kept getting more and more and more photographers to switch. And these days, Nikon and Canon both make great cameras. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. And as far as autofocus speed, really, it's all pretty comparable. You got to split hairs to see the difference. But Canon is now the #1 pro camera in SLRs. And that's something they were striving to do, and they did it with the lens mount change. Now what's ironic for Canon is they abandoned the FD lens mount, but what they made was a modern mount that's really wide and fairly shallow. Not quite shallow enough to mount a FD lens and get infinity focus, and not quite shallow enough for, say, a Minolta MD mount. But it will take old Nikon lenses, it will take old Leica R lenses, it will take old thread mount M42 lenses from Pentax Spotmatics and stuff, and it'll take K mount, and it'll take the Yashica Contax mount. So you can put the Zeiss lenses on here from back in the day, and that's kind of cool. Ironic that they can't put their own old lenses on there, but they can put a lot of other famous maker camera lenses on this camera, and with pretty good compatibility. So that's kind of awesome. Nikon's mount is nowhere near as versatile as far as taking non-Nikon lenses. But the F4 will take the widest range of Nikon lenses of any camera ever made by Nikon. So what I mean by that is the Nikon F4 had the little flip down piece so that you could use a non-AI lens on that camera, meaning you could go all the way back to 1959, mount an old school lens on the F4, and it would work. Stop down metering and manual focus, of course. And then you could use every lens all the way into the modern era, all the way up to current lenses that Nikon makes, with the exception of one series of lenses, which is their fully electronic lenses. So Nikon has some lenses that are like Canon that are fully electronically coupled. And those, I think they call them P lenses. I'll make a correction if I'm wrong in the notes below the video. Those will not really work at all on the F4. But that's it. Almost every other lens will work. So from 1959 right on up to the modern era, on an F4, you'll get autofocus, you'll get multi-pattern metering, nowhere near as good as modern multi-pattern metering, but better than center weighted, and it works pretty good. So Nikon users, the F4 is a fantastic camera, built like a tank. Nikon continued to push that heavy build, all metal construction, interchangeable viewfinders. They continued to push that all the way through the F5 before they settled in on the more sleek kind of camera like this. This was kind of modeled a little bit after Canon's very technically advanced Canon T90. That was the most advanced FD camera body ever made. And this kind of modeled after that with that sleek, flowing design. And if you look at this, honestly, it's not that different than modern digital cameras in the way that it looks. So Canon really had sort of a futuristic design element with this camera, and it caught on because almost every camera has that kind of futuristic design element. But Canon decided to abandon the whole idea of a system camera with interchangeable viewfinders and all of that. They just said, all right, we're just going to let Nikon have that. And Nikon did for the whole decade of the 90s. I always liked Canon when they went to this camera is that they put the wheel here on the back. It's a thumb wheel. And I always love that. It's just so intuitive in the way that it works. For me, I use that as exposure control. So if I need to go over or under what I think the meter is choosing, I just whip that wheel left or right, and it's really fast. And in the viewfinder, it's got a little scale off there so I can see how far either way I'm going. So that's kind of nice. The EOS will take all of the Canon lenses ever made from 1987 on. If you've got old FD glass, it's not going to work effectively on here. You're either going to give up infinity focus, or you have to put an adapter in there with optics, and what's the point of that? I use Canon EOS lenses or a wide variety of non-Canon old school lenses. I want to show you a couple of those right now. Here's heavy irony here. This is a Nikon 105 f2.5 lens. I wrote a blog review of this lens a couple years ago. This is kind of the benchmark quasi-semi-pro portrait lens that Nikon made for decades and decades and decades. And it really is kind of the gold standard in that 100mm class lens. 105 f2.5, it's sharp, it's contrasty, it's just a great, great lens. And I can use that lens on this camera. Right here on this Canon camera. Now, of course, you can use it on a Nikon camera. If you put it on a Nikon F4, it does everything that the F4 is capable of doing except autofocus. On the Canon, you're going to have some limitations to what you can do. You're going to get aperture priority automatic, or you're going to get manual, okay? And of course, manual focus. But it works great. It gets the multi-pattern metering. It's a great way to use an old school lens on this kind of modern camera. So that's kind of clever. I like that. I can also add, I've got other lenses, and let's take a look. How about we go way old school? How about 1968 or 9? Pentax Super Takumar 135 f2.5. It's a screw mount, so it worked on cameras like the Spotmatic. And it goes right on my Canon camera right here. Ta-da! There it is. Just like the Nikon, it's going to be stop-down metering, and it's going to be manual focus, aperture priority automatic, or manual exposure. So it works great. It works fantastic. So I like that. I like that I can use some old school glass on this modern camera body. And I can also use my modern Canon EOS lenses, including all my L lenses, on this camera, and just get fantastic pictures on film. Those modern digital lenses, the modern L series lenses, they are sharper than the film. So you're going to get just beautiful results on film with those lenses. Also, there's some glass, some exotic glass that's come out here recently, like the Irix 11mm. I just got this lens. the IRIX 11mm. It's a rectilinear lens. It's the widest rectilinear lens available for an SLR in the world. Canon does have a zoom lens that goes down to 11 rectilinear as well, the 11 to 24L. So those would be tied for the widest lenses. This lens goes right on that body. And this lens, it's manual focus, but it's got the full electronic coupling for the EOS. So I get all the modes that the camera offers on either a modern digital like my 5D Mark III or on this old EOS-1. So I can use that lens on there. So I got a lot of options with this old EOS-1. Interestingly enough, if you're going to go with Nikon, the F4, you can mount that modern IRIX lens on the F4 as well, because it has the proper coupling for the Nikon DSLRs. So it will go on there and work on an F4 as well. So that's kind of cool. So I really like that. I like that I have a wide variety of modern lenses, and I can use the old school lenses, and I'm shooting film, but I'm getting a camera that's fast and easy to use. So on the Canon, and this is where the Canon's going to have a big advantage over the Nikon. Canon's autofocus in the early days was notably quicker than Nikon. Faster, more accurate, it was just better in every way. Okay, sorry Nikon, it's just the way it was. That's not necessarily the case today, but it was back then. If you're going to use autofocus lenses on this camera, I would use these old cameras in the one-shot autofocus mode. So I would not use the servo mode on this camera. The servo back then wasn't very good. It definitely didn't have any kind of effective tracking. But this thing focuses right now, okay? It's pretty fast. Not quite as fast as the modern ones, but pretty good. And so you can really use the autofocus on this. You can go out and shoot whatever you want to shoot with film and not give up that spontaneity of being able to point that camera, bam, get a picture. Okay, so it's a little noisier, okay? You hear that, right? It's kind of noisy. But that's just the way it is. That's the way it was with SLRs back in the day. There's no silent mode on this camera like you get with the modern cameras. But it is pretty quick. Right out of the box without the booster drive, you're going to get roughly 2.5 frames per second, I think is what it is. You can put a booster on this thing that boosts the drive speed up to 6 frames as well if you're into that. With film costing what it costs these days, processing and so on, you might want to rethink that, whether you really want to shoot at 6 frames per second or not. Awesome, fun way to shoot old school film with a kind of modern camera. Here's the thing. You can buy these cameras, these EOS One camera bodies, for about $100. If you get the N model, which was a little bit updated, refreshed version of this camera, you might pay $150. I mean, the F4 is a beautifully made camera, and to sell one of those for $100, it just seems sacrilegious. But $100, $150 for an F4, a real clean one might be more. But wow, you go out there and you shoot a legendary camera in either the Canon EOS 1 or the Nikon F4 for really just chump change. Why not? Why not buy one? Just go buy one of those things. There's plenty of them out there. You'll see them at our photo fair. You'll see them at camera shows all across the country. You can hold them, feel them, see how they work, ask questions about how they operate. Most of the guys at these camera shows are real smart guys, been around a long time. They remember when these things were in their prime. And then, buy it and walk out the door with it. Or if you don't have camera show in your region, go on eBay. You'll find these things, like I said, $100, $150 for what was a $1,500 or $2,000 camera body back in the day. It's just wow. It's amazing the quality that you get and the modern usability that you have shooting film. And film has a very cool, unique look to it. You can shoot black and white with these things if you want. You can shoot color, whatever you want. This camera is not built quite as well as, say, the Canon F1, which was their pro camera for the FD system. But it is a nicely made camera. It uses one of those 2 CR5 batteries. Those were lithium batteries, and they're kind of expensive. I came up with a solution, however, and I found a guy selling these things. I think it was on eBay. And it's actually a 2 CR5 battery that's rechargeable. And it's a lithium rechargeable battery, kind of like a modern camera battery, but it fits right in here. And so I bought one of those, and it goes right on a little charger, just a plug-in-the-wall charger, and so I don't have to keep buying these two CR5 batteries. The rechargeable version uses modern lithium technology, and it's the proper voltage, so there's no issues there. I've had no problems with it, and it's great. It goes a long ways on a charge. If you get the booster drive, you can run AA's in the camera. Okay, the Nikon F4 will run on AA's as well, and of course AA's are widely available. You can get them rechargeable or not rechargeable, whatever you want to do. Canon EOS-1, Nikon F4. Get one. If you want to shoot some film and you want kind of a quasi-modern experience, those are two excellent examples, and my God, they're giving them away out there. So why not have one? Put it in your bag and have some fun with it. That's what I got for today. So Photo Fair, March 10th, coming up soon. Mark your calendars. Newark Pavilion in Newark, California. That's in the Oakland, California area. Another one in Newark in May, and then the Portland show in September. I will have a solid confirmed date for Portland coming real soon. So go to photofair.com and take a look at our show dates. We'll get those short up real soon. But March 10th is confirmed. I hope to see you there. I hope to see you around at the camera shows and right here on YouTube. We'll see you next time.